Welcome to the Inner Athlete Podcast, where we discuss all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring.
Welcome back to the Inner Athlete Podcast. I've got a special guest here with me today, Mr. Kosta Drak. Costa, how are you doing?
Good, mate. Good for the Monday morning.
Yeah, I know. Got your coffee in hand, ready to go?
Got to be done.
Always, mate. Always a good time. Cool. Costa, do you want to just briefly talk about yourself, what you do, your business, who you look after, a bit of your athletic history, then we'll go to today's topic.
Yeah, mate. Just in a short nutshell. So I'm the owner of 747 Fitness. We are based out of Dandenong in the southeast of Melbourne. I've had now the gym and the business for 13 years, and then we look after athletes, junior athletes predominantly, and also seniors. We work with sporting clubs, predominantly in the football soccer scene. That's one of our niches that we have, and we look after a fair bit of those people. We also still do our general population, which we've done since day one, helping people with weight loss, fat loss, increase their energy and a better quality of life. And we also look after boxers and kickboxers, pretty much martial arts, those two disciplines, because they used to fight that. So growing up as a kid, I used to compete in kickboxing, K1 as well. I fought for 7 years, and I was very on and off, and I was very fortunate to win a state title back then. So I kind of still have that in my business model, because I'm very passionate about that, and I'm very passionate about athlete development as well, and giving to people things that I never had as I was growing up, and educating the masses and giving value. And times are changing, so the old school methods of kind of going out, so coming in with a new, and then giving as much quality we can to all the coaches and all the clubs that we can.
So you've been doing this for quite a long time now. So you mentioned you've been doing it for 13 years. I guess in the soccer scene, it's like, how has that really evolved? From when you first got into soccer, we just got keep it simple for everyone in Victoria.
Yeah.
How has that really evolved from where it was to where it is now, in terms of how do they structure sessions, in terms of the speed of play? What have you seen at that local level?
So, mate, when I first did it, it never existed, and you'll probably agree. When I try to knock on the doors and tell people what I can do and help, athletes get faster, get stronger, improve the movement quality, getting them less, helping with injury prevention, people would just laugh at me. So at the start, it was very, very hard to pretty much sell myself and tell people what I can do. But once people gave me a chance and gave me time, then they could then they start to see the benefits, all the players. And then it got to a stage now that I've been with clubs now for 7-8 years, because they pretty much know the value, and they can't go without me with the things that we've incorporated over the journey, with recovery protocols, warm-up protocols. I'm kind of changing their mindset of the way things work, and it's been great. But obviously you can't change everyone. But I think the more people we get put in front of, and the more people can see what we do as strength and conditioning coaches, high performance managers, whichever way you want to call it. Now there's so many different roles people call it. But at the end of the day, if we can make athletes better, get them less injured, we've done our job.
Yeah, keep them on the field, keep them healthy.
Keep them and educating them. That's what I tell everyone. You know what, you might not get faster, which takes a long, long time. You look at people, people want results real quick. But then I just pretty much tell them, you look, Usain Bolt taking, 1.5 seconds off or 2 seconds off. It takes 4 years. And people think we're going to get, their kids, their athletes, quick in 2 weeks. It doesn't work like that. It's long-term athlete development, to generate and have success.
It's funny because it's like movement competency, where it's running, jumping, throwing, skipping, change of direction, agility, acceleration, decel, whatever these motor abilities, right? They're not considered in the same breath as learning how to kick, learning how to pass, learning strategy, and actually being able to develop that as the child matures as well. So if you're working with a 6 and 7 year old, right? Obviously they have some idea on how to run. Obviously we can incorporate some drills in order to reinforce positions, right? But sticking with that for the long term is when the growth will really start to come and shine through, when they're 11 and 12 years old. And this is why, as I'm not a parent, and hopefully one day I'll be a parent, is I'm telling other parents now with young kids, go do gymnastics, go do track and field, go do a little athletics, is because and we've seen this time and time again of when we get athletes that do these specific activities has a positive transfer effect into more of a team-based sport or a team-based arena. And then they can start to transition or like kind of like flip-flop between the two, depending on the season. So that's usually my advice, is just go straight into little athletics, run, jump, throw. That's where you'll learn the basics. Then transition. And if you want to transition into soccer, you can start to incorporate soccer at the club level. And if they want to go into MPL, then they've got a good foundational base moving forward.
Yep, 100%. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm just talking in an echo chamber sometimes with all this stuff.
No, look, mate, you're right. And I just, a lot of parents too, they specialize the kid. As many you both know, like early stage, specialization in sport. You should be trying to get the kid to do various sports, because then you develop different movement qualities, right? You know what I mean? Parents just, stick to the kid to the soccer, and he just soccer, non-stop, 7 days a week. You know what I mean? You get the kid to play basketball in the off season, you get him to do boxing, you get him to do cricket, you pick up different skills and different movement qualities, which will also help transfer.
Yeah, and that's one thing we've seen as well, is when kids are I guess, two sport athletes, their peak is a lot higher later on down the track. So when they're in the late teens and early 20s, that's when they really start to hit their stride as well. Working with, high level swimmers here, if they're a two sport athlete, they're not going to be the best because their attention is split between two sports. But it's not until when they're 16, 17 when they can afford to specialize. And that's when majority of their development has occurred from 0 to 16 years old. That's when you can really start to afford to specialize. Not in these earlier years where they're really just focused on just general development. And there was someone, I can't remember who it was, and I saw this on Instagram. They were talking about specifically, we have too many players being developed, not enough athletes. And I thought this was a really, really interesting idea. So if we're talking about athletes, right? Yes, they can play their sport, but they're fast, they're powerful, they can change direction on a dime. They're very reactive, right? We have too many players. They develop the skills way too much, and they're kind of not utilizing their time best, focusing on all facets, because we know strength, power, and speed will improve their game playing qualities of what they actually need. It's just going to further enhance that. So, and this is, and this is where I find that parents kind of, and this is what helps prevent those long-term chronic issues. We've dealt with kids with, a stress response or in their lower back, and then they have to take time out of their sport because what are they doing? They're constantly overloading the same movement patterns, right? So if we teach the kids on how to spread the force over a large area across throughout the whole body, not just through their lower back, and their glutes may not be firing correctly. They're utilizing just their lower back for hip extension, even rotation as well. Do we know that they're all that force is being compressed into the lower back, and what's going to happen? Obviously, it's more catastrophic. The time away from the sport, they've got to relearn how to move properly. So, why don't you just spend the time earlier on, learn how to move properly, then you can start to load it up more and specialize later on. And I think this is the rabbit hole that parents want to be like, as you said before, they want to be the best athletes as soon as possible, because they potentially might see like, oh, this kid did this and this kid did that. Like Israel Folau is like a prime example. He played professional rugby league when he was 17 years old. And it's just like, well, you can't correlate him to everyone else, because I know NRL players that were 26 when they debuted as well. It's just like, it's just a broad spectrum. And Israel Folau was just a genetic freak. There's always anomalies to the rule. And then, if we
parents don't look at it that way, and I get a lot of parents that think, and it's a lot of kids as well. And I've got a lot of professional athletes that I train, okay, in my gym, and then they think they get to 17, they haven't made it, and they think they're done. It's like, man, you just gotta. It's like life. You just gotta be committed and stay the course, and your time will come.
Mm.
You know, I know I've got people that I know that are, you know, like that we just said before, they get picked up at 25, 26, 27 years old. All they kept doing, they just kept going. And you got to love the process and stay disciplined to the cause. But now we've seen the dropout rate now at 17, 18, huge, because they're not playing, they haven't signed a professional contract.
Mm. Yeah, and
There is
unfortunately,
so much more.
and the unfortunate thing is that's what's always showcased is these young kids getting signed. So whether it's, you know, they're getting signed to an academy overseas and they're 16 years old, 17 years old, getting picked up for college at 17. That's what gets showcased. It's like all these young kids, but we don't see everyone else who's actually getting signed. Maybe it's to a reserve squad and they work their way up, right? And they might be 21, 22, and they might have just kind of grinded their way out, waiting for their time. Maybe they weren't of, you know, sport is very political as well. Then maybe they weren't, you know, the favorite of the squad. They were just kind of like, they were just there and they were just good. And so they kept him around. But he may have needed, that person may have needed a push in to be like, oh, I need to go to a different club if I want to make it to the next level. So it's not a clear path of like 16, 17 is like, all right, this is the cutoff. You know, there's such a vast range of ages of when they do make it through. And it depends on, obviously it depends on the sport as well. But I think the main point is, as you said before, like I've worked with kids that, you know, it's an NRL guy that I used to work with, you know, he got cut from the under 20s with Storm, and there was nothing else. Then he had to go play reserve grade up in Queensland. Now he's playing first grade in Queensland, right? And then this year should be he's making it, trying to be his breakout year to try and get onto the squad of 25. So it's more just like, as you said before, the path of success or path to become professional is not always a traditional linear path. There's always going to be ups and downs. Yeah. And unfortunately, and that's where, you know, enjoying the journey, enjoying the process itself, and knowing where you want to be is a big part of it. But not everyone knows what the next steps are actually ahead of them as well. But they think that it's just from A to B rather than going from like A to D, knowing there's multiple steps that need to be made in order to achieve that goal.
Yeah, that's right. And then a lot of them just give up so early. Like you said, they're not, they think where they should be, but then they're not. Do you know what I mean? But like we said, and then going back to our topic, it's just about, you know, as we were saying about the youth athlete development, I know we got a bit of sidetracked. You know, it's just all about, you know, learning those movement qualities from a very young age, which is going to help him and transfer as well. So like what we said before about the youth, and a lot of them don't give any attention, they spend too much time on their skill. They need to be able to know, you know, how to put force in the ground. You know, they need to be able to get strong. But, you know, and then the bad misconception is people, you know, there's usually a lot of parents and coaches that go, oh, they don't need to, you know, we don't want them lifting weights because they're going to stunt their growth. And you hear things like that, and you probably hear it all the time. But the truth is, it's like we don't load, you know, the kids up early. You know, I mean, we actually teach them how to move. And once they move properly, then we start to add some load. You know what I mean? And then we slowly progress them that way. And that's when, like, now I'm starting to see a little bit of change and parents get it. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like, when you're doing things body weight, when you're doing things with minimal load, it doesn't look cool. Do you know what I mean? And having, say, someone doing bench press of 100 kilos. And especially, you know, we've got social media now. And with social media, you know, kids think, oh, I need to go to the gym to do this. But it's like, no, you doing this is not going to help your athletic performance. It's not going to help you correlate it, not one little bit.
Yeah, then I think, yeah, obviously we have gone off topic, but I think when we look at social media and then we look at these top level athletes, and I've had this in the past, and you probably had this as well. You're an young athlete coming in and say, "Hey, can we do this?" You know, like, why? It's like, what's the point of this? And it's like, oh, this person does it because, and they're top level, and I'm like, all right, how many years have you trained them versus how many years have they trained, right? We know as S&Cs, right? We know as the athlete gets older, the movements can afford to become more complex. You know, that's just part of the development, right? In terms of driving adaptation. For a lot of young kids, just doing the basics for 3 to 5 years and being consistent with it is actually enough. For these top level athletes, they're going to have to require some level of complexity. So whether it's using, you know, flywheel or doing more Olympic lifting or triphasic training, whatever system that you want to utilize, right? That's that's when it really, for them, it makes the most sense, because and this is like the law of diminishing returns. And I think everyone should understand this concept is, when you first do a training session, right, or your first year of training, you make some astronomical gains, where size, strength, speed, and power, right? Because we get so many adaptations. So whether it's, movement efficiency, we gain a little bit of size, changes in muscle fiber types, contractile rate, whatever it may be, right? As we get more advanced in our training, those gains become smaller and smaller, but we have to push harder and harder. This is the law of diminishing returns. And as you said with Usain Bolt, right? It took him 4 years to drop the second, or a second and some change. This is the type of, like, when you're at that top level, you're literally training the hardest that you possibly can, or you're trying to be as creative as you can and trying to tap into what you haven't done in order to get that small 0.5% edge. Whilst in the early years, you could gain 50%, 60%, like make remarkable improvements at the earlier stages, but eventually you're going to have to go more complex. And this is where I think people get lost in the source of where they're placed versus, where they rank themselves against their peers as well. Is like, what have they actually done in order to get there?
Yeah, that's right. Like what we said, a lot of people look at something on Instagram, or they see some of my stuff that I put up on my stories with high level athletes. They go, I'm not doing that. It's like, mate, this guy's been training for 7 years. You've been here for 1 year. You can't do this kind of exercise. And the way I try to look at it as well, like it's usually with athletes, and they've got so much going on. Let's be honest, they have school, they've got homework, they've got studies, like they have, the club commitment. If they make a rep team, they have that. And the way I try to look at it when we train athletes, I try to make it as easy as possible. I don't want to overcue. I don't want to overcomplicate anything, because in the day, I don't want their head to be, just getting fried from so many different things that they're trying to learn from me, from the club, from the coach, and it just becomes too technical. Do you know what I mean? Like I've had a lot of interns that have come through. Probably you have too, and they go, like we said before, you gave an example of Olympic lifting. It's like, yes, Olympic lifting is great for athlete development, but the way I see it is just to do just variations of it that are easy to coach. And then once they learn how to do that, they're easy tasks to learn. You're not going to, learning a clean and jerk, learning all that, especially for an athlete, it's going to take you ages. And let's be honest, an athlete doesn't want to sit there for 45 minutes learning how to do that. They actually just want to get moving, do you know what I mean? And doing something that's going to help them transfer, but it's not going to take them a very long time. And you agree with me, Trent, it's just about teaching them variations and to getting that stimulus.
Yeah. Now, I guess for parents, right? So this podcast is catered towards parents as well. So what do you think of the 3 things that parents can do to really help, I guess, further enhance the child's performance or increase the likelihood of success? The best way I like to put it is stacking the chips in your favor. So I like using this analogy with kids because they understand it as well. Everything we do on a daily basis is you're either pushing those chips away or you're stacking those chips in your favor, or stack whatever it may be. So what are some key things of those chips that would be that parents can help their kids with?
And number one thing that parents should really understand, and it's under the radar, like the best recovery thing is sleep. You know what I mean? Kids are sore, because they're not sleeping. They're on the devices till, 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. Do you know what I mean? 1 o'clock. So it's like, have a look, make sure your kid's in bed, getting, 8 to 9 hours, of quality sleep. And there's so many tools now out there that you can actually measure your sleep and your deep sleep as well, which can help you track this, actually see how much their recovery is. And obviously, the better you recover, the better you can perform the next day. You know what I mean? And we're talking about that's number one. The second step is nutrition. I mean, what are they fueling in their body? What are they having for breakfast? I mean, what's the first thing they're doing? I still have so many athletes, right? They go, I woke up late, and then I just went straight to school. I didn't have anything until 12 o'clock. And then they're coming to me at 5 o'clock with one meal. Of course, you're going to be tired. Of course, you're going to be exhausted. And then the next, if you can get a really good sleep, get the good best recovery you can, make sure kids have foam rollers, mini band for activation, do you know what I mean? Spiky balls to get into those trigger points. Make sure their nutrition, is really good. They're having a really good balanced diet, which is actually going to help them to perform. and if parents can understand, of the power of protein, of good carbs, good fats, you know what I mean, for their kid, and also hydration as well. Are they fluing up as well? Do you know what I mean? Are they getting, the right hydration in? Are they drinking water throughout the whole day? You know what I mean? You can even get down to the stage of, hydration monitoring, which what I do, like with the clubs that I work for, to the high level ones. I'll weigh everyone, when they first rock up to the game day. They take their weight, and then after they do that, they take their weight after. Then we see how many kilos they've lost, and then we replenish that with water. 1.5 liters of water of every kilo of body weight they've lost.
Keep an eye out on the second installment of our conversation. If you want to stay updated on the latest episodes, make sure to subscribe to Inner Athlete on both YouTube and Spotify.